to the Daily Grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
UFC President Dana White El Jefe has said that he will deal with Conor McGregor after the law. He also, in this same time he was approached by TMZ, dropped another bombshell, yo. He said that Conor McGregor vs. Khabib will not be in Russia. He said a fight that big has to be in Las Vegas. He said Khabib will fight in Russia at some point, but it won't be that fight. That's pretty big because we all know Conor McGregor wants to fight Khabib in Russia because he's great. No, but check this out. Dana White was approached by TMZ, and he also talked about North Korea and South Korea. You know, he said in South Korea they're building a new stadium. That's going to be a pretty big focus for him soon in the future. TMZ was trolling a little bit, said, you know, North Korea and South Korea are cool now. You going to North Korea? He's like, yo, pump the brakes. It ain't that easy. So maybe in the future, but he talked about a lot in this little 1 minute and 30-second interview with TMZ. And the first thing he touched on was Conor McGregor being punished by the law for his Brooklyn rampage at the Barclays Center when he came down like a Spartan, charged through the arena and threw a damn dolly and broke a window, injured a couple fighters, got 4 fights canceled off of UFC 223. Complete madness. Conor McGregor was arrested at the end of it, not like arrested there at the scene. He had to turn himself in. We all know El Jefe, Dylan Dennis bonded him out. You know, he wasn't in there long. Conor McGregor wasn't even in there 24 hours. He was out back on the plane doing his thug dizzle. But with that being said, people are still wondering, well, is Conor McGregor going to be punished by the UFC? You know, Conor McGregor's just did what Dana White himself quoted as saying the worst thing he's ever saw in the sport, or the worst thing in the history of the sport, something along those lines. And we've seen the UFC kick guys out of the UFC. We've seen the UFC, you know, punish other fighters. And as of right now, they haven't done that to Conor McGregor. So he was asked about that, and he said, yo, we got to see what the law does first, and then we'll see what we're going to do. Now, this is interesting because Conor McGregor, unlike a lot of the other people that have fucked up in the UFC, is the biggest star. And I'm just talking about like in the court of public opinion, though, because when you look at what actually happened after it all played out, yes, if the dolly would have went through the window and fucking took someone's head off, decapitated someone, it clearly would have been worse for Conor McGregor. But I'm talking about just look at it from the outside. Like John Jones, when he got in that hit and run, right? It was a pregnant lady on the inside, we found out afterward. And also, he didn't stay to check on that. He kind of just took off, right? Well, Conor McGregor, what he did, he essentially, as fight fans, it was worse, right? Because he almost ruined UFC 223. We lost 4 fights on the card, and he almost injured 2 fighters pretty bad, right? But what's worse, 2 fighters getting a little bit of injured, not even super injured. It's not like either one of them. Michael Chiesa had a little bit of blood on his head, and Ray Borg had a corneal scratch, but he was already rebooked like 1 month later. So it wasn't extensive. Their injuries were not very extensive. So other than breaking that window and getting fights canceled, I mean, both of these guys fucked up. You know, John Jones and Conor McGregor. But John Jones, he's still around and alive and kicking. You know, and I don't think the UFC, you know, a lot of people like to bring up Paul Daly and how he hit Josh Koscheck after the bell, and he got kicked out of the UFC, banned for life. And they're like, well, what Conor McGregor did is way worse than what Paul Daly did. But the thing is, Conor McGregor is a way bigger star. He's a multi-million. We're talking about probably more than millions at this point. After fighting Floyd Mayweather, the amount of revenue brought in off one Conor McGregor card, you know what I'm saying? That's a lot of money compared to just a lot of these other guys that end up getting punished. But at the same time, you can't have Conor McGregor doing whatever he wants. You can't let Conor McGregor just punch a referee. You know, there's got to be a point, and you've got to stop Conor McGregor at some time. You can't let him go over the rails. So with that being said, I do think something has to happen, but what's it going to be? It can't be nothing. But as of right now, nothing has happened to Conor McGregor from the UFC, but it looks like the UFC has to see what New York's going to do first. Maybe New York bans Conor McGregor. And see, this is the thing. You can't really just put it on New York. Well, you can, but really, I don't know who's going to punish it, but New York, you got to think about it. If New York punishes Conor McGregor, what's that saying? You can't come back to New York and fight in Madison Square Garden? Well, okay, I'll go fight in Vegas, right? I'll go fight Khabib in Russia. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting to see not only how the UFC handles this with Conor McGregor, but how does New York handle this with Conor McGregor? New York, it was at the Barclays Center. That's a no-no. You don't go crazy at the Barclays Center. That's a new stadium. I mean, a lot of money there. And the UFC, this was a thing where the Mac Life, Conor McGregor's like media crew, let him in through the back door. This is pretty serious. So I don't think New York's gonna let Conor McGregor off, even though that he might get a little leniency, because what are you gonna do? Ban Conor McGregor and miss the money? Like, let the UFC come back but no Conor? You probably want Conor McGregor back at the next Madison Square Garden card, I would assume, so maybe you're a little more lenient. If you're the UFC, of course you want Conor McGregor back, so maybe you're a little more lenient. So Conor McGregor, I don't expect the biggest sanctions in the world. I don't expect him to be suspended for no 6 months to a year. Honestly, Conor McGregor might be back as early as this year and just get a big fine. But the thing with Conor is he's got so much money. What does a fine really do? So it's really interesting to see how this plays out. You can go check out that interview with TMZ, but it wasn't very long. It was just Dana White getting approached by TMZ, you know, like they always do. Hey, what's up, Dana? Got a couple of words? Hey, how about Conor in Russia? You know, and so yeah, he said the Conor McGregor versus Khabib is too big for Russia. And then when he was asked about Conor McGregor's, you know, being punished for the Barclays stuff, he said we have to see what New York does first. And then also he said that South Korea is actually a focus for the UFC. They're building a stadium and they plan on probably attending that stadium. So a couple nuggets from Dana White. He said the UFC will deal with Conor McGregor after the law does, or after New York does. And hey, when you're New York or the UFC, it's kind of hard to punish somebody that brings you a lot of money. But at the same time, is it money, or is it, you know, what are you gonna go with? Are you gonna, if someone makes you the most money, do you just let them off scot-free, or do you have to send some kind of message? I don't know. I think something has to happen. I don't know. We'll see. I'll keep you guys updated. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I'm out. And as always, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell right next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. I'm out.
This is #1 bullshit.